Hello, hello, this is Pattyjo. I am so sorry. I am not feeling great. I'm under the weather. I'm not even going to try to start that again. It's just going to be just as bad. All right. So I got a negative comment. I do get some, and I respond to them pretty much the same way as I respond to positive ones. I want to take them in. There was the one that pointed out when I was rude, and that to me was a really good suggestion. I was rude. There was one that was like, why am I doing this again? And I've said a couple of times throughout some of the videos, but I know that some of you know, and I'm not going to go because one of the other ones is I talk too much. I was also assaulted by a huge narcissist. I think we all have some narcissists in our life. And for some reason, I just keep getting stuck into this, different parts of it over and over again. But by doing this and talking and, whether anybody's listening or not, and some of you are, and some of you are right on my page, and some of you aren't, that's fine. I'm getting it out, and I am doing something that I know is important to get rid of the negative feelings I have about what happened to me too. It's not nearly as bad as what happened to these folks. And, like today, my son might lose his home and he and his family will be homeless. I don't have any more money to help him. I've drained everything I have. And that's still not as bad as what happened to these people. That's still not as bad. Let's see. There is a link, and I'm going to test that link again, that you can copy and paste and donate, and I strongly advise you to. And even though I'm having financial difficulty, I'm going to as well. And next time I get paid, that's one of the first things I'm going to do, even if it's just a tiny bit, just because I know that paying it forward is hopefully just the right thing to do. It's just the right thing to do. So I talk too much. That's the other thing I'm going to try. Today I'm not going to talk a lot because I feel horrible. I know I look horrible. Misspellings in the disclaimers and stuff. I'm not going to lie. I'm new to this. I don't know how to do this very well. I use my grandson's broken ring light. It's not even on right now. I'm using a regular window. I use a MacBook that my other son gave me that is so old it cannot be updated anymore. The microphone, as you can see, is gone. So I use headphones. They're so loud I can't even put them on my ears most of the time, and they're like the old corded kind. Like, seriously, I copied and pasted those. So did I proofread them? Well, obviously not. I skimmed over them enough to know that they were legitimate disclaimers from the right UCC whatevers, and that's about it. I never really proofread them. Maybe I should. Okay. Now, moving on. We do have some funny stuff, and there were a couple that I read while I was sleeping after my 2 night shifts. They're gone in my head, but I'm going to go back and find those because I'm using those. I'm going to use your quotes. Guys, you are hilarious. All right, let's lose some IQ points. Let's lose some IQ points.
Oh, Madam Clerk, when you get an opportunity, I forgot my water. Oh, right.
She needs it. Oh, Darrell, just shut up.
And I assume you still have Sam. Yes. Hi, Sam.
Look at him. Oh my God.
Right, I'm told.
Look at him. Well, I'm going to sneeze. I'm not going to make you suffer through my horrible cold. Let's see, can I? Stats for nerds. Okay. Okay.
Well, first of all, we are back on the record.
Angry.
Appearances are as they were before. I'm told the jurors are done with lunch and available for us. So I presume the state's able to call its next witness.
Yes, we're ready, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, great. Then we'll have the
last
jurors
one. Wasn't
brought
the last
out.
one the guy who?
I will go tell them since I
Okay.
have Madam Clerk step off the bench for me.
Just waiting to say he's a third-party intervener.
Hi, we're ready. Sorry.
Nobody's paying attention to you, Darrell.
Record was my ICF received.
Oh my God! Another.
I have not looked at my mail today. I can't tell you that.
Also, for the record, I'm appearing by special appearance on behalf of my client.
I'm sorry, sir. I can't hear you. Could you start that over?
Nobody's paying attention to him, and he's so angry because he hasn't made his little third-party intervener speech.
Oh, that's what happens when I send you on errands. All right, the audio is now on. I did call the case earlier, just noted that the appearances are as they were before. The jury is on its way in. And I just will state, in case it wasn't clear, Mr. Brooks asked about an inmate communication form. I have not reviewed my mail today, so I can't tell you whether I've received anything, but I'll take a look, and at the next break, if need be, we can address that.
And I just wanted to state that I'm here. I'm here
Oh my
under
God!
special appearance on behalf of my client, with all rights reserved.
The Rachel V.
All right, I'll rise for the jury, please.
We just all lost 10 IQ points listening to that tripe. He is so angry.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Statement.
I remember one of them, somebody called his mask a face diaper. Totally using that. I'm totally stealing that. It's going to go, you get the credit for it. I'm going to look up the comment to see who said it. Face diaper. We are no longer calling that
Call its next witness.
as a face diaper.
Thank you, Judge. State calls Officer Christopher Moss.
It's catching all the BS coming out of his mouth.
All right, officer, if you would please make your way to the witness stand, which is on my right, upper riser. When you get there, please remain standing, raise your right hand, and my clerk, Teresa, who's on my left, will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please have a seat. First thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the record and spell each.
First name is Christopher, C-H-R-I-S-T-O-P-H-E-R. Last name is Moss, M-O-S-S.
Thank you. Go ahead, your witness.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How were you employed?
Currently employed with the City of Waukesha Police Department.
How long have you worked in law enforcement?
I have been a sworn law enforcement officer for 14 years.
All of your time was spent with the City of Waukesha Police Department?
No, ma'am.
Who else did you work for?
6.5 years was spent working for the City of Oconomowoc Police Department, and a year, or just over a year, was spent working part-time for the Village of North Prairie Police Department.
Were you working for the City of Waukesha on November 21 of 2021?
I was.
Do you recall participating in the Waukesha Christmas parade that afternoon?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
What was your role, please?
For that event, I was tasked with the City of Waukesha Police Department's Honor Guard unit. Specifically, I was part of the Color Guard, which is the group that leads the parade carrying the American flag and the state of Wisconsin flag.
And you were there right at the beginning of the parade, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Do you remember about what time the parade kicked off?
Approximately 4 p.m.
Did you march the entire route of the parade?
I did.
Did you complete the parade
Yes, I did.
without incident?
Without incident.
And after you completed marching the parade with the color guard, did you go someplace?
Yes, upon completion of the parade route, as we were the first entity to finish since we led the parade, I subsequently returned to the City of Waukesha Police Department.
And why did you go back to the department?
That evening, I was assigned to late power shift, which is from 5 p.m. to 3 a.m., and I was designated to work area 308.
Hold
Okay.
on, let's just all appreciate 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. Ugh.
So
Terrible shift.
you marched in the parade with the color guard, then you were going to go work a full shift that evening.
That's correct.
I hate
As you
this.
were back at the police station, what do you recall happening?
As I was changing out of my honor guard uniform into my duty uniform, I heard multiple police sirens emanating from the downtown area. I subsequently checked our reporting system and observed that there was a call for service that officers were responding to in emergency fashion, reference a subject with a knife.
Okay, let me point out that some of these officers are saying radio traffic, and some of them are saying certain other things. When something that elevated happens, I know there's other things that are signals, but there are signals that have certain designations, and it's the same way in the fire department. We have signal 40, signal 99, and 13 is definitely an officer in trouble. But those words, I say with little air quotes, have significant meaning. It's kind of like if you said something like last call to me, it's not just me thinking about the last drink in the bar, because I don't really go to bars, but I think about the last call for somebody retiring or at somebody's funeral, and they have this whole ceremony, and it actually like will make me tear up. But that word is those signals are, I don't know, I hate to call it triggering, because I think that's kind of it's kind of like, it's different. I think it sounds dumb, but it sparks something, it changes something, it turns something on. You automatically hear that. Everybody turns the radio up to listen, to see what to do next. So those words they're meaningful to them.
Where was that response directed to? What location?
I believe that response was directed to the area of Frame Park in the City of Waukesha.
Did you do anything at that point?
I was still technically off duty, so I would continue to get dressed quickly in the event that they needed additional resources to that location.
Okay, don't point out that he wasn't immediately going to insert himself in there. Remember the one guy walking down the street? He was going to wait to see if he was required to be there. Because just to insert yourself in, you're just in the way. If I stopped at every accident I saw, just because I'm a paramedic, just because I've been one for 20 years, just because I worked in a very urban area with a lot of trauma for several years, I would still be in the way. A, I don't have any equipment. B, I'm not on duty anywhere, so nobody's following what I'm doing. C, I don't have any place to put these people, so what am I going to do when I collect them? And, you're just in the way. So that's point made. Upset.
And did you ever get called to that location, sir?
No, I was never called to that location.
What happened next?
As I continued to monitor my handheld radio while still getting dressed for duty, I heard via our primary channel fellow officers screaming hysterically on the radio, requesting people to respond to the downtown area and the parade route.
What did you do?
Got dressed as the fastest I've ever gotten dressed before, and subsequently sprinted out of the police department, entered a fleet, and responded in emergency fashion to the downtown area.
Okay, again, I'm going to point this out. When police officers scream on the radio, okay, even firefighters, we're taught, like, when we go into the fire, when you're on the radio, you don't yell. There's no reason to yell. People can hear you. Everybody can hear you. You don't have to yell. So if you're yelling, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. Okay, so sometimes maydays will come out as yelling because, you're already scared. You're not thinking straight. But I used to work on a critical care transport team that worked in-house at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Now, before they built their big tower and everything is in one place, things were very spread out, like over a quarter of a mile. So what we would do is we would take critical patients off of the ICUs for their tests so that a nurse would not have to be taken off of the ICU. Very important service at the time. I think they're still using it to a certain extent, but back when it was like 12 different buildings and they were all between a quarter and a half a mile apart, and we were going down to sub basements for some of these tests with these critical patients, it was important. And when we were called the Purple Team, and when the Purple Team was running, that everybody got out of the way, like part the scene. The same thing with the police. When the police officers are screaming on the radio, then the people who are supposed to help calm the situation have lost control of that. It's already, it had to have been horribly scary for everybody listening.
Specifically, where did you go?
I arrived in the area of Clinton and Main Street.
And can you briefly describe for us what you saw when you arrived at that intersection, sir?
Upon arrival, to describe it was just absolute chaos. As I exited my fleet, I looked east and westbound on Main Street. There were civilian subjects lying on the ground in every direction I looked, screaming, yelling, etc.
Did you attempt to render aid to these individuals?
I did. I ran in a westerly direction between Clinton and Maple, attempting to render aid to 2 elderly female subjects.
Did you, at some point, leave that duty and speak with Officer Skolton?
Yes, I did.
Where did you speak with Officer Skolton?
In the vicinity where I was, I ran into Officer Skolton, who approached me from a westerly direction. Upon making contact with him, he advised that he had fired rounds at a red Ford SUV, specifically an Escape. I asked him if he was okay. He stated that he was, and he subsequently said that we needed to find the vehicle.
And did you, in fact, set out to try and find this vehicle?
I did.
Prior to Officer Skolton telling you that, did you have any vehicle description?
I did not. The radio traffic was complete chaos with people screaming about injured participants of the parade being all over the downtown area.
So where did you go to look for the vehicle?
As I was moving my fleet near Donny Boy's Tavern on Main Street, I subsequently observed a male Hispanic running towards me, waving his hands frantically to garner my attention. And as I asked him what he needed, he subsequently stated he knew where the vehicle was.
Did you understand what he meant by that?
I clarified with him that he was speaking of the vehicle that was indeed involved in the incident in the downtown area, as well as the vehicle that Officer Skolton had fired rounds at. He confirmed this, and I subsequently told him to get into my squad car and began traveling with him.
Do you know the approximate time this was occurring?
The subject approached me at approximately 4:49 p.m.
And so you took the citizen with you in your squad?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And did he direct you to a specific location?
Yes, ma'am, he did.
Where did you travel?
From my location where I met up with this individual, we traveled westbound on Main Street and subsequently made a left-hand turn to travel southbound on Maple Street. We traveled approximately 2 blocks to the area where I subsequently located the vehicle in the driveway.
How did you know it was the vehicle you were looking for?
Based off what Officer Skolton had previously described to me as a red Ford Escape, I observed a heavily damaged red Ford Escape in the driveway of 338 Maple. This particular vehicle was heavily damaged in the front end. I also observed that there was clothing embedded in the hood, as well as a headband with blue lighting hanging from the side mirror. Additionally, I observed a bullet hole in the windshield on the passenger side.
Let's review. That's evidence right there. We know that it was a red SUV Ford Escape because of witnesses and the police that have said it all over the radio, and that all is recorded. We know that it would have been damaged because there were people struck. We know that it was a Christmas parade that they were going through, so clothing being embedded in different areas of this vehicle mean that is, you know, where the people were separated from their clothes, their shoes, etc. And we know that one of the officers used their weapon towards the vehicle, so there would be possibly a hole, and there was one in this vehicle. Let's just see how Darrell tries to say, how do you know this was the vehicle? How do you know? How do you know this was the vehicle? Oh my gosh.
Did you secure this scene?
I did.
What did you do?
As I exited my fleet, I drew my firearm to clear the vehicle to ensure that it was clear of persons that could potentially harm me based on the information that I had garnered up to this point. And after that was done and rendered clear, additional resources that came to my location, we secured it by taping off the entirety of this particular residence as well as the street.
This guy, he's so smart. He, I bet, is hilarious. Okay? He's very even-tempered, calm voice, uses professional jargon to a certain extent, not too much of it, but enough. I don't want to say this in a negative way because I don't think it's negative. He, in a professional way, emotionally separates himself from the incident. They're civilians. He's responsible for civilians in his job. That's his job. So he kind of separates that. I'm looking for the civilians. The civilians are telling me this. I'm believing them, and I'm doing these things. And that's how he keeps emotionally calm through the whole thing. Good on him. Good on him. But I bet in the cafeteria, in the wherever they get coffee, the Starbucks or the Dunkin' or wherever they go get coffee, this guy's hilarious. This guy will say something with that monotone tone of voice and get everybody rolling all day long and practically peeing their pants. That's this guy, I bet.
When you cleared the vehicle, were there any subjects present inside the vehicle?
There were not.
After you had secured the scene, did you have an opportunity to take photographs of the vehicle?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And what device did you use to capture these photographs?
So each of our City of Waukesha police squads are assigned a cell phone. I believe this one in particular was an iPhone. We utilize that to capture photographic evidence as well. So I utilized the cell phone from the squad.
All right, I'm going to ask that exhibit number 99 be put up for the witness, please. Go ahead. Sir, do you see exhibit 99 on your screen? If not, it'll be up in a minute or so. Just let me know, please.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. Do you recognize that photograph, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you recognize the photograph to depict?
It depicts a heavily damaged Ford Escape in the driveway.
And where is this location?
338 Maple in the City of Waukesha.
Is this a photograph you took
Yes, ma'am, I took this photograph.
using your iPhone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Move to admit permission to publish, Your Honor.
Objection.
Exhibit 99 is received. Permission to publish is granted. The objections overruled.
Doesn't even lift his head to say objection anymore.
Sir, is this what the vehicle looked like when you first observed it?
Yes, ma'am.
And you had testified earlier that you were able to see some articles of clothing on the vehicle. Do you see those items in this photograph?
I'm going to stop it. Okay, so let's take a look ourselves. So, can't see the license place. So, one of you spelled it L-I-C-E, like lice, like your head lice, in place. I've always, like, put it together a little differently. Yours is way funnier, way better. Lice in place. God, look at this. This is nightmare. Here's something. And this little piece of clothing, that's going to be a big question mark right there. excuse me. All right. The license plate.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
License plate.
Could you please point them out? And that's a touch screen in front of you so you can mark it with a dot or an arrow or whatever you choose.
So here on the hood, near the windshield, was a hat,
That'd be a big
and then
thing
clearly
up here.
seen hanging from the driver's side mirror is a headband that's partially illuminated.
What do you mean illuminated?
This particular headband had multiple, appeared to be blue LED lighting.
Okay.
Somebody decorated their head for Christmas parade. It still had the lights on. Darrell, you are so evil. How can you be so evil?
The front of the vehicle, it appears to me that the front bumper is laying on the ground. Is that accurate, sir?
Objection, leading.
Overruled, you may answer.
Yes, ma'am, that's accurate.
May we take the annotations down?
Yeah, we can deal with that. Thank you, Judge. So to your knowledge, no one had touched or disturbed this vehicle, at least since the time you were present, before you
Objections.
photographed it?
Objection, speculation.
Overruled, you may answer.
To my knowledge, no, there was no manipulation of this vehicle prior to my arrival.
Okay. And at some point, did you look inside the vehicle? And I don't mean just to clear it of persons, I mean take a closer look inside the car.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And what was your purpose in doing that, sir?
Due to the nature of what was happening and the exigency of trying to identify who may have been inside the vehicle, I did locate documentation of identifying in nature.
And do you remember the name on that paperwork?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
What was the name on the paperwork inside the vehicle?
The name on the paperwork inside the vehicle was one Darrell Edward Brooks, Jr., male black, date of birth 2/21 of 1982.
Okay. So this idiot thinks nobody can see him. He's wearing, so he thinks he's in a vehicle with some kind of cloaking device or something. And drives through where everybody in town, practically, except for a few people who were watching the football game or the one guy hunting or whatever. Excuse me, he drives through where everybody can see him committing his crimes. He has the key, he keeps the key to the car that he's trying to abandon in the pocket of his pants, which we'll find out later. He leaves his ID, his identification, which now he completely says isn't his because he's a third-party intervener, and he's trying to be soft-sit about it, which he has no idea what he's talking about. At least he should have done some actual research, maybe watch some of those videos where people get stopped and stuff like that. He would have been able to do it with a little bit more credibility, but he has no credibility whatsoever. He thinks his lies are just going to dazzle everybody, and nobody's going to notice the absolute complete trail of evidence that he has left. He might as... Never mind. I think we can see. You guys are right. There are pieces of this, and I think I've said a couple of them, too, where if the state had just done this one piece of evidence and closed, that would have been enough. That would have been enough.
In fact, was there more than one piece of paper inside the vehicle containing that same personal identifying information?
Objection, speculative.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
Yes, ma'am, there was more than one item.
I don't see a front license plate in this photograph. Do you, sir?
No, ma'am.
Where's the license plate?
May I draw?
Yes.
It was determined later that this is actually the license plate
Okay.
on the front.
Not from the photograph, but from your recollection, was the rear license plate clearly visible?
Objection, leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
Yes, ma'am, the rear license plate was clearly visible on the vehicle.
Did you attempt to run the license plate for this vehicle?
Yes, I did via police radio.
What information did you learn about the registration of this vehicle?
The vehicle displayed a Wisconsin registration plate of A. Adam D. David P. Paul, 9256, which listed to a Don L. Woods out of the city of Milwaukee.
Do you remember the approximate location of the street where Don Woods lived?
Objection. Hearsay. Irrelevant.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
No, I do not recall that information.
Darrell, you brought your mother into this. Okay. Now, I'm not saying, I actually think she has a lot of ownership over all of this. She raised a monster somehow. And believe me, I am not one to judge that, because your kids do stuff. Your kids will do things you're not proud of. They will do things they're not proud of. And it has nothing to do with the way you raise them necessarily. They just are like people that way. They make bad decisions. But Darrell is 40, okay? He's 40, upwards of 40 years old at this point. 38, 39 is when how old he was when this happened. At what point does the kid who is making bad choices in his teens, and maybe even, I will even stretch it up to the early 20s, because your brain isn't fully formed till you're 26. When do you calm down and start at least putting some semblance of a social constructed life together? Darrell never did this. He just continued to stomp through every single nice place he was like a huge monster. Like, I actually see him as this giant, like, troll face gremlin, just like messing up everybody's garden, stomping through it. A giant troll of demon.
You just remember City of Milwaukee.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
He
Okay.
brought her into it.
And the vehicle was registered to Don Woods solely.
Objection. Leading. Relevancy of who's it related to.
The objections are noted. I'll sustain as to the form of the question and ask Attorney Upper to rephrase.
Was the registration only in one person's name?
From what I understand, it was.
Okay. Do you know the relationship between Don Woods and Darrell Brooks?
Objection. Speculation.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
No, ma'am, I do not know the relationship.
At a later point, as you were, well, strike that. Let me ask this. Did you remain with this vehicle for some time?
Yes, for some time.
And were other resources, law enforcement and other resources called to the area to deal with this vehicle, sir?
Yes, ma'am, they were.
And as that was occurring, are you aware of other police activity that was occurring nearby?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
And what was that, please?
I had heard via police radio Officer Luling advised that he was out with a subject in the 500 block of Elizabeth Street, which is just a couple blocks away.
And did you hear Officer Luling indicate a name for the subject that he was out with?
Yes, I did.
And what was that name?
Officer Luling aired over police radio that he was out with a male subject identifying himself as Darrell Brooks.
So he left all this evidence behind in the vehicle, took the key with him, stomps through the neighborhood, and is found, shockingly enough, I mean, to nobody's surprise, except for his. Darrell, you're such a fool. Thinking you had a cloaking device on or something.
All right, sir, thank you. I don't have any other questions. We can take down 99. Oh, I'm sorry. I do have one other question about 99. I apologize, Your Honor.
Objection.
Oh, overruled. She may answer.
You can't.
She may ask.
She didn't ask a
Do you
question.
know what time you snapped that photograph of Exhibit 99?
Yes, ma'am, I took that photograph on the date in question at 5:01 p.m.
Thank you, sir.
I'm gonna have a hard time
Thank you. You're
dismantling
cross,
this guy.
Mr. Brooks.
You stated that you were flagged down by a Hispanic male running at you waving his hands. Would that be fair to say?
That's correct.
Do you recall his name?
I do.
And would you state it for the jury and for the record?
What do we do?
His name is Abel Liscato.
He asks the yes or no question, do you remember his name? Expecting the guy to like spit it out. Now, I might spit it out because, you know, I'm a regular human and I, you know, even though I've had some experience with testifying in court, I'm not tons. But this guy's like, yeah, I remember it.
And do you recall if Mr. Liscano gave you any additional information during your traveling to where the vehicle was located?
We're going to learn about hearsay.
I don't understand your question.
You stated that
I think it was clear.
Mr. Liscano got into your vehicle and you traveled to where the vehicle was located. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
Did you learn any additional information from Mr. Liscano? How do you say it, Liscano?
Liscano.
Liscano. Did you learn during your travel to where the vehicle was located? Did you learn any additional information from Mr. Liscano?
Not while we were traveling to the vehicle.
So you traveled to the vehicle in complete silence?
No, he was trying to direct me with the location of the red Ford Escape.
Did he say he saw anyone driving the vehicle?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Okay, so here we go. Did he say he saw anyone driving the vehicle? So he's asking this officer if Liscano, the person, Mr. Liscano, said he saw anything. He can't ask him that. He's got to call Mr. Liscano. Hearsay. Oh, I get it.
So all he told you was where the vehicle was. He didn't tell you if he saw anyone driving it?
Objection, hearsay.
Grounds.
The witness may answer the question as long as he does not answer with hearsay. Go ahead, overrule.
Can you restate your question, please?
So all that the Mr. Liscano already told you was the location of the vehicle, not if he saw anyone driving?
I object. That question calls for hearsay response, Your Honor.
I would agree hearing that again. Sustained.
Did he at all tell you that he saw someone in the vehicle?
Objection, hearsay.
Grounds.
Hearsay.
Sustained.
Everything
Grounds
he's
for
asking.
sustain.
It's hearsay. To ask him what Mr. Liscano told him would be hearsay.
He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand.
So all Mr. Liscano did was just direct you to the vehicle.
That's correct.
That's all you guys talked about during your trip to the vehicle.
Objection, asked and answered.
Grounds.
Sustained. It was asked, and I previously sustained the objection. So, next question, please.
When you were able to locate the vehicle, where did Mr. Liscano go?
Once the vehicle was located, I had Mr. Liscano stand by in my fleet until other officers arrived to assist me, and then I transferred him over.
Okay, is he calling his fleet? Is that his car, his squad car, or whatever they've assigned to him? I don't know. Sorry to interrupt him.
To someone else.
Do you know if he made any report at that time?
Define report.
Did he make any report to law enforcement at that time?
I'm not sure if he did or not.
Do you recall Mr. Liscano yelling that there were subjects standing outside of the building where
Objection, Your
near
Honor.
the
I'm
vehicle
going to
was?
excuse the jury while I take up a legal issue. All rise for the jury, please.
Jesus is going to stop them all together. Now we're going to learn what hearsay is.
Thank you. Be seated. Mr. Brooks, before I have you question this witness any further, it sounds like to me that you are attempting to offer through this witness the statements made by Mr. Lascano. If that is what you are trying to do, you may not do that. You will have to call Mr. Lascano as a witness if you so choose, if he's on your witness list. But that your questions are seeking to elicit hearsay from this witness. That's why I had the jury removed so I could explain my ruling and why I'm going to direct you not to ask this witness questions about what Mr. Lascano may or may not have said.
Now, if you and I don't know how many of you are legally, a lot of you are probably smarter than me. If you and I have figured out hearsay by now, those jurors listening to what has been said, they figured it out too. And they can see that Darrell's an idiot. He's the only one in the room who doesn't think he looks stupid.
I'm reading directly from his report.
That would be double hearsay then. Because it's not you need Mr. Lascano here to say what he told this officer. If you are attempting to offer it for the truth of the matter asserted, which is what I believe you are doing, you're attempting to establish the veracity of something Mr. Lascano either said or didn't say through another witness. That is hearsay.
So it's not hearsay for the prosecutor to bring up.
I'm not going to talk about other rulings. There's been an objection by the state, and I'm sustaining the objection, and I'm directing you not to ask this witness questions that would call for this witness to say what Mr. Lascano said. That is hearsay. That is textbook hearsay, Mr. Brooks.
And then I don't think it's fair for me to object to hearsay from the prosecution about along the lines of the same type of thing.
I'm not going to have a debate on what may have come in previously. I know you've made a number of hearsay objections, many of which the answers that were being provided were not hearsay. But I would direct your attention to 908.01 of the Wisconsin statutes. You have that book in front of you that I provided to you a number of days ago at the beginning of this trial or near the beginning of this trial. There's the definitional section of the statutes which defines hearsay. It also, and then if you go on to 908.02.
Oh, he knows what it means. He knows what it means. He knows. He knows what it means. Now he's going to be condescending to her because she's a woman and she's schooling him. He's just mad because he's so misogynistic as well as being narcissistic that he can't even have a woman explain to him in the nicest way possible, actually, by eliminating the fact that, other people making a fool out of him. She's trying to do it in a very kind way, and he is being a petulant toddler.
That's obviously one you may want to look at as well.
No.
And then 908.03 has the exception. So unless you can give me an exception, sir, as to why this witness should be allowed to answer those questions, I'm going to, again, direct you not to ask
directly
these questions.
from his report, the report that he wrote. Nothing is coming from. I'm reading directly from his report. That's what I have.
Doesn't change the fact that it's hearsay.
You said what?
That doesn't change the fact that it's hearsay.
So
it
his
actually
report
creates
is
another
hearsay?
level of hearsay. It's an out-of-court statement.
So
not this witness made, but what another witness made. So you have to.
So I can't read from his report that he wrote.
Not to him.
You can't ask this witness questions that call for a hearsay answer unless there's no objection from the state. Or you can convince me there's an exception to the hearsay rule that applies. Do you have an exception you'd like to offer to the court?
So I might as well not read the report that he wrote then if I can't question him about the report that he wrote.
That's your misunderstanding, sir, what is hearsay.
I'm so sorry. This is his whole legal strategy, to read the reports that these people wrote that day and discredit them. he doesn't have any other legal ideas. Now, not that I would have a legal idea how to defend myself about if I had done something bad like this, but I would be smart enough to hire somebody who would have a legal idea how to defend me in some way, if there was a way. But he just thinks he can, well, you didn't really see it if it's not on this one picture here, or, I can't, this guy said there wasn't anybody in the car, so how can you link it to me? Well, they can link it to you because it's 5,000 witnesses saw you, and dozens of officers saw you and described it, and there it is, big as day, with your ID in it, and then they find you later with the key to the thing. Darrell, like, anybody could see that Helen Keller could have written a novel. Well, she was really smart. That's probably a bad example, but you know what I mean. Like, a blind person could see this. A deaf person could have heard this. Anybody can understand that you left a trail of your poop behind you as you trotted like a donkey through this beautiful little town. Oh my God.
And I all I can tell you is I'm sustaining the objection. I'm going to bring the jury back out, and we'll go from there. All right, Madam Clerk, bring the jury out, please.
Clear bias. Clear bias.
Clear.
Mr. Brooks, I understand
I
you
don't-
may
I don't
disagree
consent to
with
or agree to
the...
being called that name. For the record, again, I'm here as a third-party intervener on behalf of my client.
Okay,
I don't know why that's not understood by now.
because it doesn't make any damn sense. Liar lines. Oh, look at, he is mad. Look, somebody said he had shark eyes. That's a Beefy thing. Beefy said that.
So I guess I can't bring up the plaintiff
He has
either, huh?
anxiety, said that. He has this look that, and it's evil. Let's see if I can, there we go. That it's like a shield, like a film that sharks get when they're hunting. He is void of anything human when look at him. Ugh. Ugh. It's like, yeah.
Tacit agreement.
Tacit agreement, which isn't a word.
All right.
It's like my spelling. Whatever. Look at him. With dead eyes.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated.
Ugh.
Continue with your questions, sir.
I'm trying to be
I
intimidating.
gotta tread lightly.
What?
The jury will disregard that last comment,
I don't know why.
and that...
I didn't hear that.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Continue with your questions, sir.
I gotta tread lightly.
The
What?
jury will disregard that last comment,
I don't know why.
Does it say below 100%?
and that one as well.
Bias.
It's not your opportunity to testify. You'll be given an
I'm not
opportunity
testifying.
should you choose
I'm
later,
not
sir,
testifying.
but please question
Yes, you
the
are, if
witness.
you're-
If I could ever get to it, I'll do that.
And again, the jury will disregard that statement.
He is angry.
It's not evidence.
Not a good look.
you made reference to a hat being on the hood. Can we pull Exhibit 99 up again?
Are you asking the state to do that, sir?
Yeah, can it please be pulled up and
Sure.
published?
It can, and it will.
Look at him. Oh. Does he think that nobody notices that?
The jury can let me know when it's on the screens in the jury box, please.
Look at him. Oh. He needs the diaper
All
on
right,
his face.
it's in the jury box. Continue, please.
You testified to this being a hat, right?
That's correct.
And from this picture, can you tell what that is?
Not specifically.
So how do we know if that's a hat from looking at this picture?
Because he walked up to the thing and he saw it was a hat.
From looking at this picture, it would be difficult to determine if that's actually a hat.
That's why they have the witness there.
So it'd be fair to say you don't know what that is.
No, I know it's a hat.
Based on this picture, you're
Based
right.
on this picture.
Based on this picture, I'm not able to determine what that item is.
Would it be also fair to say we can't even determine if that's outside or inside of the vehicle at that point?
I'm going to totally disagree with him here. And and this officer doesn't, but that is called a cowl. I believe it's COWL, but I could be wrong. And the reason why I know this is because I had a 99 Mustang GT. And that thing had little bits and pieces of it that were falling apart. And I learned that that's what the word for the piece of plastic or fiberglass or whatever it is, probably plastic, between the hood and your windshield is called a cowl.
Point.
I would disagree and say that is on the exterior of the vehicle,
And how
between
would
the
you make
hood.
that assumption if you can't tell what it is?
Objection, argumentative.
Grounds.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
Stop interrupting
Can you
people.
clear that?
Cleared it,
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
because now he's barking at everybody. Like a devil dog.
You can definitively say from this picture that you can tell where the item is based on this picture.
Yes.
Are you going off what you found or what you can see from the picture?
I can see from this picture that that item is on the exterior of the vehicle between the hood that is destroyed and the windshield.
So it's on the hood?
No.
It is between the hood and the windshield of the vehicle.
It is, it's on the
And you can tell that from this picture.
Objection as an answer.
Grounds.
Argumentative.
Sustained as to both grounds.
And from this picture, you can tell what this is.
Yes.
Just from the picture.
Yes.
Yes. Because let's look at it. We don't have a good view of it. I see little lights and I see a white furry thing. It's some kind of headband with lights on it.
And how do you come to that determination?
Based on the fact that it's hanging on the exterior of the vehicle from the driver's side mirror, that it is in the shape of a headband and it is partially illuminated in this photograph with LED lighting.
It could be fair to say that it's anything. Would you not say that that's fair? Just from looking at the picture, it doesn't necessarily say, or it's not 100% identifiable from this picture. Would that be fair to
testimony.
say?
That is a statement.
Objection, compound question.
Sustained as to the form of the question. Please rephrase.
Just from strictly looking at this picture, you can't positively say what the item is.
Objection. That's a mischaracterization of his testimony.
Sustained.
He said he could.
Please rephrase.
Clear the photo.
Clear this. Clear this. Do
You're
what I
asking Madam
say.
Clerk to please
Clear the
clear it.
photo.
To please clear it? No, he
Mr.
doesn't
Brooks,
get
I'd
to
ask
do
that
it.
you show some deference to my clerk and not bark orders at her and use simple courtesy. Thank you. And thank you, Madam Clerk.
Will I be awarded the same, Your Honor?
Victim,
Please ask your next question,
Will I
sir.
be awarded the same, Your Honor?
no.
Please ask your
You
next
won't, because
question.
you're
I will. I just want to know if I'll be awarded
I
have
awarded the
been.
same.
Thank you. Please continue.
like a bug. But what about me?
Did you talk to anyone who lived in the residence?
I don't recall the specific persons I talked to or where they resided.
So it's fair to say you talked to someone.
There were multiple people outside of the residence and in the area at that time that I spoke briefly to.
But you don't know if any of them was the renter or owner of the driveway.
I do not recall.
Do you recall asking anyone if the vehicle belonged to somebody who may have stayed in that general area?
I do not recall asking that question to anyone.
You did state that you cleared the area. Would that be fair to say?
No, I stated I cleared the vehicle, not the area.
Did you clear the area?
Eventually, we did clear the back portion of the residence to ensure there were no suspects or victims.
Who is we?
Persons of law enforcement.
And did you wait until law enforcement came before you started to do that?
You mean
Or
other?
did you start on your own kind of way?
Upon arrival to the location of the suspect vehicle, I was by myself, so I initially cleared the vehicle to ensure that there were no potential threats to myself. When I advised dispatch that I had located the suspect vehicle, numerous officers came to assist me and were there relatively quickly to help me secure the area.
So would it be fair to say when you found the vehicle that you didn't locate anyone inside the vehicle?
Correct. No one was located inside the vehicle at that time.
And you also stated that you cleared the vehicle for possible threats to yourself. If no one was in the vehicle, what did you need to clear the vehicle of? What would be the threat?
Based
All those other people you say were in the passenger seat, stupid. To make sure they don't exist. That you didn't leave all your pretend friends. Because we know you don't have any actual friends.
on, again, as I earlier stated, what had occurred in the downtown, plus the fact that Officer Skolin had fired rounds at this vehicle, I was unsure who or what may be inside the vehicle. Given the time of day, as it was becoming dusk, it was getting harder to see outside. So to ensure my own safety, I cleared it the way I earlier stated.
So would it be fair to say that, well, let me back up. You took this photo, correct?
That is correct.
So that would mean you were, at least by that time, sure that no one was in the vehicle. Would that be fair to say?
That is correct.
So did you clear the vehicle before taking the picture or afterward?
I cleared the vehicle before I took the photograph.
Did you find any threats in there?
After I initially cleared it, no. It was deemed to not be a threat to my person.
Did you do any other investigating after you had took this photo?
Can you rephrase the question?
Did you do any other investigating after you took this photo?
After the photographs were collected of the vehicle in place from multiple angles, I did locate identifying information inside the vehicle.
What I'm asking is, so let me back up. So that was the extent of your investigation was finding whatever you found in the vehicle at that point.
Correct.
Grounds.
I'll withdraw.
Thank you.
Correct.
Okay, so my understanding, because everybody has Fourth Amendment rights. First of all, I don't know if he's still with a vehicle, if you still have them. Okay, because they suspect something's going on. First of all, he clears the vehicle of threats because there was evidence that the vehicle was the one used to do damage in the parade. So he wants to make sure that there's nobody hiding in there, or there's not something in there that could hurt somebody. Okay? You know, maybe Darrell doused it with gasoline and threw a little match or something before he left. Who knows? Who knows what happened? Okay, so might have been smarter, but he clears it for that. The next thing he is allowed to do is look to see in plain sight, just like we're allowed to videotape in plain sight because all those little creepy guys do that. You know, if you actually have something to do, I don't mind, but geez, you're just being a nuisance. Anyway, so in plain sight, he can see that there's cards there. He looks at the cards. That he can do. Then after they get the search warrant, then they can take the car, move the car into a controlled area, or use it, or look through it there, and look through everything to find any piece of evidence, whatever. But the outside of the car, when he called in the license plate number, and all those other things, he's allowed to do that because that's plain sight. Stop it, Harley. You're fine.
So,
You're fine.
when you were clearing the vehicle, would it be fair to say that you could have done the same investigational work at that time?
No, that would not be fair to say.
And why not?
Because when you're clearing a vehicle to ensure that there are no threats to you, you're not looking for anything specific as far as evidentiary value. You're looking for a threat to your person.
So you would clear the vehicle of threats after being in the vehicle to do that, and then go back into the vehicle and look for, or start investigating rather.
Correct.
Why not do them all at once? Is that a procedural thing or
Asked and answered, Your Honor. I object.
grounds?
Sustained. Next question.
Even though she said them.
Is it usually procedure to investigate later on after clearing for threats?
Yes, you always want to ensure that where you're working on an investigation is clear of threats and that you are safe.
Would that be the same protocol if you were searching a home?
Objection. Relevance.
Grounds?
Sustained.
Grounds for the sustain?
Relevant.
Don't shake too hard on that. Whole island will come off the front of your head.
And you may mention that
Horn.
the vehicle wasn't, I guess I would say, touched or between the time that you were flagged down with the location of the vehicle until you actually observed the vehicle, you stated that you don't believe the vehicle was touched in any way in that time?
Objection. That's a misstatement of his testimony.
Grounds? You said something similar to that.
Sustained as to the form of the
Well, if
question.
it's similar, it's not the same.
Are you sure that the vehicle was not touched in the time that you were flagged down about the location of the possible vehicle and observing the vehicle?
I am unaware if the vehicle was manipulated in any fashion from the time that Mr. Lascano flagged me down and to the time that I located the vehicle in the driveway.
Do you know approximately how long it took you to get to the vehicle when you were initially flagged down about the location of the vehicle?
I do not know how long it took me to get to the vehicle upon being flagged down.
So it's possible that it could have been manipulated.
Yes, it's possible.
At the time that you located the vehicle, Were you aware of any suspect identification or name?
Can you restate your question, please?
At the time you located the vehicle, were you aware of any suspect or name of suspect?
No, I was unaware of any names of any suspect involved in the incident at the time I located the vehicle.
And when did you learn of that information, if you learned of that information?
I only learned the information of a possible suspect upon locating the identifying documents inside the vehicle and subsequently providing that information to dispatch.
At the time you found that information, did you immediately regard that information to be the possible suspect?
Yes, since it was in the vehicle that was heavily damaged, the red Ford Escape with the bullet hole in the windshield, yes, I believe that that information indeed belonged to a suspect.
And at some point you ran the license plates number. Would that be fair to say?
Correct, I did.
And you also stated that it was registered to someone that was not the suspect. Would that be fair to say?
As far as I know at that, as far as I knew at that time.
I'm sorry to interrupt him. Sherry, I'm Wimpy, I don't know how to say your name, Sherry. Darrell was the best prosecutor the state had. But they don't want to work with him again. I don't think so. Even Alexa doesn't recognize license plate. I know, I tried that too. I'm glad I was not the only one. I tried that too. See if Alexa knew what license plate was. I can't say that too loud or she'll wake up. Oh my gosh. Thank you for those of you who say you like my commentary. Some people don't. Okay. All right, Sherry, this is you again. Darrell's fake emotion wasn't fooling anyone. Thank you. That was all an act. Anytime you have to say you're a little emotional, you are faking it. Exactly. Emotional. It was disgusting. I'm guessing Mama Dawn was the one telling him to show some empathy. Somebody, I think you're probably right, somebody told him. Maybe some of his jailmates said, you look like a big poop. That's why he has to wear the face diaper for all the poop coming out of his mouth. She knew how it was coming across to the jury. Yeah, everybody can see it but him. He thinks he's making headway.
I did not know if the person registered the vehicle to was a suspect or not.
You also stated that you found identifying paperwork in your investigation of the vehicle. Did that information match the identity of who the vehicle was registered to?
No, the identifying information, again, for Mr. Brooks that was inside the vehicle did not match the registration on file with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation for the registration of the vehicle, which was Don L. Woods.
For the record, I don't identify by that name. Yet again, stating that.
He never said anything about you. He just said the identification said Darrell Edward Brooks. You know, that's one thing I noticed. He keeps saying it as if everybody's talking about him all the time. He's so self-centered. He said the identification said Darrell Brooks. I don't identify it by name. Okay, well, neither do I.
For the record, the jury will disregard that commentary by the defendant, and it also mischaracterizes the witness's testimony.
It does not. I was just stating for the record.
Again, the jury will disregard
So-
commentary as Mr. Brooks is.
Commentary, yeah. He absolutely says those things when the jury comes in. He does this crap too. It's like he snaps into it. He's acting one way, and all of a sudden the jury walks in. He's like, "Oh, we made a subject matter jury," like it was organic to the conversation, and it was not. Thank you, Sherry.
It's not present in testimony.
The information you found in the car, the vehicle was not registered to that person, correct?
That's correct.
there's a possibility that at any time multiple people can utilize that vehicle. Would that be fair to say?
Objection, speculation.
Grounds.
Calls for speculation. Sustained.
Would you agree that a vehicle registered to one person and information found by another person constitutes that more than one person used the vehicle?
Objection.
Grounds.
Go ahead.
The question was, does that prove that more than one person could drive the car? That's an improper question.
That wasn't the question.
Well, sustained as to the form of the question and assumes facts, not in evidence.
I'm going to chime in here. Marianne, you said something about 17 hours ago, trying to insinuate that Erica was in the car and therefore liable. This whole thing was to get to her. Yes, he blames her for everything. He was trying to go get the bail money for the last crime he committed against her. I theorized the whole reason he was representing himself so that he could question her. Yes, and he continues to do so. We just haven't been able to see it because those were live and not on Zoom. The ones in Milwaukee when he actually gets, he pled to whatever it is he did to his nephew and the other person. But for Erica, he wanted that to go to court so he could drag her through it some more. Ugh. Such an icky little man.
State that last part again.
It assumes facts, not in evidence, your question. Your next question, please.
Her oath is gonna.
Is it fair to say that people leave all types of information in family members' vehicles at any time?
Objection.
Grounds.
Irrelevant. Speculation.
Sustained.
Trying to get to a point.
Grounds for sustain.
Ask your next question, Mr. Brooks. Please.
Okay, if he's trying to get to the point that anybody could have been driving, okay, I'm driving my son's vehicle right now because I actually bought the vehicle for him years ago and I don't have a car right now and I just started that job that I have right now and he's trying to help me out so that I don't have to use Uber. So he is sacrificing having that car available to him so that I can have the car available to me. Very nice thing to do, especially since he is in way worse financial hardship than I am. Okay, so moving along, I mean, he's trying to say anybody could drive. Okay, yeah, I'm driving the vehicle right now. So I could drive the vehicle, he could drive the vehicle, his girlfriend could drive the vehicle. You know, really anybody could drive that vehicle. So who's incriminating whatever is in it, or who, you know, ran the light and got the ticket? You know, I don't know. We know the vehicle was. We don't know who was in it. Of course, some of those cameras are pretty good nowadays, but that is the defense he's trying to go for here. He stumbles on it the way I just stumbled through that whole commentary. Just hideous.
May I have the grounds, please?
The objection has been sustained. Ask your next question, please.
In other words,
May I have the grounds?
The court's not answering that. The record is self-evident.
Is that a tacit agreement?
Is that a tacit agreement?
Sir, I don't know what a tacit agreement is, so please keep going.
She even teaches him how to say it. He still screws it up. Clearly. It's obvious. Obvious and clearly, which means he's going to say a lie. Ugh, so horrid. Oh God, we have way more time on this one. Ugh. I'm going to have to take a break. One of you very astutely pointed out that most of the time the cross-examination, I think this is statistical, is a lot less time than the direct questions from whoever called the witness. So the state calls the witness and their stuff takes 5-10 minutes. His should take probably less than that because all you're really trying to do is discredit what evidence they put in. He is just piling more evidence in that they didn't even put out there. I mean, there are a few times where the people say that they saw the driver, him, and they don't question it. They don't have them identify him. And he actually piles that in and serves it up to the jury like a fool. You know, I swear, Harvard Law should look at this as some kind of educational experience for their lawyers. All kinds of things not to do or what to do as they go up against this. Creepy.
Would it be fair to say, and this is along the lines of the same question,
Thank you.
would it be fair to say that at some point you've left items in other people's vehicles?
Jesus. Of course.
Grounds.
Relevance.
Sustained.
Only
Grounds for the
incriminating
sustained.
grounds.
Next question, please, sir.
Relevant.
I've sustained this question multiple times, multiple
wasn't
ways
the
you've
same
asked it.
question.
Next question, please.
May I have the grounds?
90611, sir.
May I have the grounds?
Next question, please.
Is it to relevancy? Is it to hearsay?
Under 90611, ask your next question or I will cut off your cross-examination. Please ask your next question,
You
sir.
have to give the grounds, though, Your Honor.
No, she does not. And she has
Especially
already
if I'm
told
really
him
just
this.
asking for the grounds of the sustain.
Sir, ask your next question.
Not only did she tell him that she is not obligated to explain that to him, she told him that it's usually obvious, and she told him that if she explains it, that sometimes she is pointing out his stupidity. Not only is he the most evil creature, he is the dumbest. I hope he sees this at some point. That would make my soul sing if I had one.
What's the point of me asking questions if I can't ask anything?
The jury will disregard his commentary
What's the point if I
Can you
that
can't
he
imagine?
just stated right now.
Petulant. Somebody else highlighted that for him. Face typer.
Do you recall speaking to, well, you said you spoke to a few people you didn't know if they were the owner of the house or the driveway or the renter. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, that's correct.
Did anyone you spoke to give you a description of a possible driver?
I was given multiple descriptions by multiple parties of multiple suspects that had fled the vicinity of the vehicle.
And what do you mean by multiple descriptions of multiple suspects? 2, 3, 4 people? 5?
I was given information that one male black suspect that was taller, wearing blue pants and black, had run southbound on Maple towards College. Additionally, I was given information that 2 shorter male blacks wearing gray sweatpants had run in a westerly direction from behind the residence at 338 Maple. And then later I was also given another description of a male black, unknown height, wearing like a gray sweatshirt and pants.
That might have been a good question. Because here you've created a little bit of doubt. But let's wait. Have faith. Darrell may have potential to create doubt here. But we all know he's going to screw this up.
Pants.
You said medium height for the last description?
Unknown height.
Unknown. Okay, I'm sorry. Unknown height. Did anyone you talked to report the sound of a crash?
No, no one I spoke to at this location reported anything regarding the sound of a crash.
Did you see any signs that there may have been a crash once you and other officers were securing the area?
As far as the vicinity around the vehicle or the...
Why does stick with the multiple descriptions of eyewitness events, you know, because eyewitness is always like people are trying really hard and they mess it up. So he doesn't stick with that. That's his big thing there. This is a potential gold mine for him. God, he's dumb. And he moves on to, what about the crash?
The vehicle itself.
He's got
The general area.
As far as the general area, given the time of day,
He is cross-examining this guy like I go through the supermarket. Like, I think I have a plan. Somebody wrote the plan down for me here. I was writing my list as we speak. But I will screw this up 100% and end up with peanuts and potatoes for dinner. Trust me, I will. Mark my words.
I was unable to determine if there was any signs of a crash in that vicinity.
When talking to the people that you, while talking to the people that gave you the descriptions, did they identify themselves as living close or living in any of the houses in that area?
No, due to the chaotic nature of the event, I did not ascertain where these individuals lived or if they were associated with any neighboring residents.
Do you know if they made any other statements to any other law enforcement that was there present with you at that time?
Not to my knowledge.
Why do you think you received so many different descriptions of suspects?
Because people make mistakes.
Multiple people from multiple angles observed different things, and there was a lot of people there. It was a very chaotic event. Even this particular scene was chaotic and hectic with numerous people coming to and from, so it was difficult to determine that information.
Did any of the people that you spoke with give any reason to why the suspects that they identified would run from the scene?
Objection. Speculation
Grounds.
also calls for hearsay.
Grounds.
Sustained.
Yeah.
Grounds.
Next question, sir.
They said it. They said it. If you had been listening instead of grumbling grounds a whole bunch of times, like stupid idiot, you would have heard. It's speculation and hearsay. Did anybody else say? And, you know, why do you think they would have run away? Well, you know, why do I think people run away from things? Because they committed a crime or because they think they're going to get in trouble for something. Ugh. Hold on a second. Because I know Harley is going to want. Oh, I'm so sorry. But Harley is going to want to walk. She's been lurching around ever since I started this. My phone's going to die. I could have left that on while I went and got my charger. Since he still has to read his, idiot. Alright.
Do you recall any of the officers that were securing the scene with you having a K9 present?
Yes, I do.
And do you recall what officer that was?
That was Officer Bausman, who was a canine handler with the City of Waukesha Police Department.
and eventually you left the scene where the vehicle was found and started searching the area?
Yes, I transferred command of that location to Officer Buttrin, had him remain at that scene for scene security with additional City of Brookfield officer, and then myself, Canine Officer Bausman, and numerous other police officers from various departments conducted an area search as we were conducting a canine track. Based on the information I had obtained, multiple suspects running from the area.
So in other words, they didn't just focus on Darrell, even though he was the most obvious choice. Because they had other descriptions, they made sure to follow up to see if those were real or dead-end leads. Okay? That actually is some good policing. I had a comment that, because I said something about police, and I know there's some positive and negative things. And generally, I've worked with what could objectively be seen as a police department that has proven to have a lot of corruption that was proven and put out in the news and documentaries and self-loathing, eating itself. So I am not blind to good and bad policing. I have been involved. I mean, when we call the police, we as the fire department call the police because we have to break into somebody's home. We can't just break in because we think somebody's sick or hurt or something like that. We actually have to have the assistance of the police department so that we can document it and it's well documented and we have somebody there. So one time, it was a situation, I won't go through the entire story, even though it's such a cool story, that, somebody, came out as trouble breathing, middle of the night, we come in, the situation is really sketchy. There was a sketchy person outside that was yelling at me and calling me names, and they finally back out and they get around us without us having to move. That's what he wanted us to do, stop and move. So we get up to the building is locked, so now we have to break in. So we call for the truck company because the ambulance doesn't have anything on it to break into a house. And then we call for the police because we have to have police. So we break into the first door, break into the apartment. It's a big house broken up into apartments. We find the person's deceased. The person had been deceased for a long time. Now, the next thing to do for me is I try to find something in the home that's got the person's name, possibly the birth date, so that we can identify, or they can identify at the coroner's office, and any kind of, say, medical issues, where there are papers from the hospital, something. I try to look for some evidence of the person. There was none. There was nothing. This place was void of any. I mean, if you walked into my house and walked over to this one little creepy place that I do these videos, you will see a literal pile of paper with my name on it all over the place. It would be obvious who the person upstairs randomly found what would be. Okay, then they could probably find evidence of my kids and or my family and call them. There was nothing like that. So the officer is just a police officer. We don't get like detectives in the middle of the night to do this with us. And her comments like, oh, there's nothing fishy here. I'm like, oh no. We just broke through 2 doors and there's no demographic evidence of this person at all. Who called? Who called? Because this is not new. So who called us? Okay, so I'm not completely blind to work that's sketchy or not really well done or even bad. But these are good officers who were doing their due diligence. And I think many are. Do people who have no self-control get into this work? Yes. But this is not this person. This person's a good officer. Go. I am. off my soapbox, because that was one of the negative comments I got, was that, police are often bad and they do all these things and they violate your rights, and if you're not careful. And I think that can happen. But I also think that more times, hopefully than not, this happens, where you have a good officer who's really trying.
And do you recall what time you went back to where you initially observed the vehicle?
I do not recall what time I made it back, but it was some hours later.
And did you go back to your department after leaving from the scene where you found the vehicle?
Yes, I was directed by my command staff to return to the police department, as the scene was still secured by other law enforcement officers of various agencies.
And were you instructed to make contact with anyone at that point?
Yes, I was.
Do you recall who?
I do.
And then you stayed for the jury and for the record?
Yes, upon arrival to the police department, I was directed to make contact with District Attorney Sue Opper.
Okay.
And when you say Sue Opper, are you referring to District Attorney Sue Opper?
Yes, that's what I said.
Yes, that's
she here in
what I
court
said.
today?
Ha ha.
Yes, she is.
Can you point her out for the jury?
She's seated at the prosecution table, wearing the gray cardigan.
She's laughing at him.
Let the record reflect that the witness has identified Attorney Opper.
I love Sue Offer. She's such a lady. She's such a smart lady. She is not to be messed with.
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
And do you recall what the nature of the contact was with Attorney Opper?
Yes, I was directed to locate Attorney Opper in the downtown area at the scene of the parade incident, and subsequently transport her back to the City of Waukesha Police Department.
So I'm assuming make contact with her at the parade, so you went and picked her up?
That's correct. I picked her up in the area of Maple in Wisconsin. Correction, I'm sorry. The area of Maple and Main Street.
And did you continue that contact after picking her up? And let me back up. Where did you go after picking up Attorney Opper?
As I stated, once I picked her up, I transported her back to the City of Waukesha Police Department.
And did you continue to have contact at that point?
I did.
And what was the nature of that contact?
District Attorney Opper and I worked together to draft a search warrant for the 2010 red Ford Escape SUV that was in the driveway of 338 Maple Street.
You said a search warrant?
Correct.
Initially, when you secured the vehicle and then investigated the vehicle after securing it, what did you need to search for at that point that you needed a search warrant?
After I had cleared the vehicle and located those items of identifying nature, that was done due to the exigency of the event and identifying any outstanding suspects. After that was done and photographed in place, I resecured the vehicle, and it was no longer touched at that point. So therefore, later on, it was required to have a search warrant to continue processing that vehicle for items of evidentiary value.
So you just stated that the vehicle wasn't touched between those times. So what if anything new, did you need to search for?
Objection, argumentative.
Grounds.
Overruled. He may answer.
The basis of the search warrant was to ensure that, again, any items of evidentiary value I may have overlooked due to, again, the exigency of trying to find identifying information of an outstanding suspect, as well as clearing the vehicle for safety reasons, That is the purpose of the search warrant, is to do a more slow, methodical search of the vehicle for said items of evidentiary value.
Like DNA.
But it would be fair to say that after initially clearing the vehicle, for, as you said, for any possible threats to you, and investigating the vehicle further a second time, what did you feel would be of evidentiary value at that point that you hadn't already observed before?
Objection. Asked and answered.
What do you know?
Argumentative.
Grounds, I'm referring to him stating the evidentiary value.
Evidentiary.
Asked and answered. Sustained.
So what was the evidentiary value that you were looking for
Same
with
objection.
the search warrant?
He's
The
asking
same question a different way, so I'm going to sustain it. It's been asked, it's been answered.
I'm sorry.
Next question, please.
Can you give an example of what evidentiary value is?
Evidentiary value is. What's in
Something of evidentiary value can
DNA.
really be anything that's pertinent to the case. An example would be
Gee,
like a
that
shell
narrows it down.
casing or a spot of blood that can render DNA results,
Blood,
things of that
DNA.
nature.
Did you find any of those things when obtaining the search warrant?
Objection.
Grounds.
Well, that's factually inaccurate, Your Honor.
It assumes a fact, not an evidence. I'll sustain the objection as to the form of the question.
Did you find, upon obtaining the search warrant, were you able to find anything of evidentiary value?
Same objection. Assumes a
Grounds.
fact, not an evidence, Your Honor.
Sustained. It assumes facts, not an evidence. Please rephrase and establish a foundation related to whether this witness performed that subsequent search.
After obtaining the search warrant, did you yourself go back and search the vehicle?
No.
Do you recall what officer was dispatched to do to execute the search warrant?
No, I do not know who ultimately searched the vehicle for items of evidentiary value.
Do you recall if the vehicle was then towed from that area at some point?
Yes, the vehicle was removed at some point. I do not know when or by whom.
Do you recall where it was moved to?
I do not know where the vehicle was moved to.
He is acting like this officer. Okay, even in, okay, I would call this a smaller town, smaller city. It's not a huge city. So per capita, they're not going to have as many officers, detectives. They're probably going to be calling in from several different to help them out, if nothing but with manpower. But he's assuming that this one person is going to follow through every step of what's going to happen to this vehicle, to the SUV, and that it would never be the case in my opinion. He's the one who found he did his part. He got the thing cleared for safety. He got the thing cleared for whatever could be seen. Ran the plates. And then he calls in more resources. Those resources are going to take over and do the next steps. It's never going to. It's like, okay, I go to get a patient. I take the patient to the hospital. I write a report. After the report's written, I don't keep on with that report. QA looks at the report. It's peer reviewed. It goes to the medical director if something happened that was untoward. I don't like follow the piece of paper the entire time. He's so dumb. Like, it's because he's never like participated in any kind of actual work where people would work together.
You stated earlier that you did observe a gunshot in the windshield. Did you notice any other bullet marks?
Oh my goodness.
No, the only mark that I observed related to a gunshot was the bullet hole in the windshield on the passenger side.
And was that, you said on the passenger side, was it to the passenger side window, the passenger side chair, the passenger side dash? Do you recall where the bullet hole was?
As I previously stated, it was in the windshield, front windshield, on the passenger side.
Were you at any time given a copy of the search warrant?
Yes, upon completion of the search warrant, I was given a copy. The original went over to the command center.
Is it a standard protocol that, being that you were the one that obtained the search warrant, is it usually a thing where you don't have to be the one to execute it? Any other officer can execute it?
Based on the requirement of the search warrant to process this vehicle for items of evidentiary value, that's beyond the scope of my training and experience. So therefore, it was relayed to persons that are capable of actually doing it.
In other words, no. Just because he's the one who got this, he's the one who found it, so he would get the search warrant, I guess. And then anybody can execute it who is qualified to execute that kind of search. Period. Anybody else not understanding this? Darrell's not following.
that.
But you can, you said it's beyond your level, or so. I didn't catch where you said it was beyond your level or something.
It's beyond my scope of training and experience.
Beyond your scope of training. The actual writing of the search warrant isn't above your scope and training. Would that be fair to say?
That's correct.
But the execution is.
Of this particular search warrant, yes.
What made this particular search warrant different than any ones you've ever written or
This is just Darrell wanting his ego massaged.
obtained before?
This particular search warrant was for a search of the vehicle involved in the Christmas parade incident. And given the gravity of the situation and the resulting effects of what this vehicle was used for, persons that are highly skilled in collecting items of evidentiary value are obviously the people we want to do that rather than a patrol officer.
And you were able to get that search warrant signed, correct?
That's correct.
Do you remember by whom?
Yes.
Can you state for the record and for the jury?
At that time of the search warrant, the on-call judge was contacted, and the on-call judge was the Honorable Jennifer Darrell.
That would be the judge right now in the courtroom.
Yes, that's correct.
And we go seamlessly into this as all some kind of conspiracy against the great, great Darrell the Devil Brooks. You are Satan with your horns and your island. My God. Nobody had to work to get you into trouble, Darrell. You just stomp right through it.
Did that complete your part of the investigation for that incident at that time?
Yes, upon getting the search warrant, I was relieved of my duties.
Did you ever come back into the investigation in any way after that point?
After that point, no.
No, because even on duty, he wouldn't interfere, okay? That is called interfering in the next person's job. It would be like me going to the QA department and the QA office and telling the captain, here, let me read my own because I know better than you do. The whole point of that is to have the next person do it objective. Oh my God. It's not even worth it. Now I know it's on his other hand and I'm bored with it.
after your part of the investigation ended, were you able to obtain any more information that you didn't know the night of your investigation?
Objection, vague, cause for speculation.
Sustained.
Grounds for the sustain, Your Honor.
Please ask your next question.
Exactly what was said, stupid.
Do you recall having any more contact with Attorney Opper after that initial night?
No.
When were you aware that it was a possibility that you could be called to testify in this matter?
When I received a subpoena to testify in this matter.
Excuse me, I didn't.
When I received a subpoena to testify in this matter.
Was that subpoena served to you by the district attorney's office?
Yes, it was.
Was it served by Attorney Opper?
I don't recall who served me directly. I believe it was via electronic.
Do you recall when you received that subpoena?
I don't recall the exact date, but it was a few months ago.
So it's pretty recent, but a little time since you received it.
Yes, that's fair to say.
Would you by chance know who the plaintiff is in this matter? Grounds.
Relevance.
Grounds.
Sustained.
Ever seen or talked to the plaintiff? Had any physical interaction with the plaintiff in this matter?
Objection, vague, and compound
Grounds.
question.
Sustained.
You even know if there's a plaintiff in this matter?
Objection,
Grounds.
irrelevant.
Sustained.
You know who filed the complaint in this matter?
The complaint was filed by the district attorney's office.
Do you know if it was filed by Attorney Opper?
I don't know particularly who filed the complaint. I just know it was by the Waukesha County District Attorney's Office.
And during your time in law enforcement, would it be fair to say that whoever files the complaint is a party to the matter?
Objection,
Grounds.
beyond the scope of the witness's
Grounds.
knowledge, Your
She's
Honor.
representing this.
Sustained. Next question.
Grounds for the
That's how
sustain,
we
Your Honor?
set this up.
Next question, please.
He's not even doing the soft sit thing right.
Any reason why the state of Wisconsin would be identified as the plaintiff when they did not file the complaint?
Objection, argumentative, misstatement of the law.
Grounds.
Sustained.
Grounds.
Grounds for the sustain, Your Honor.
Ask your next question,
Grounds for
please.
the sustain, Your Honor. Where's my... I lost my mouse.
Was that the grounds?
Next question, please.
The jury deserves to know this.
The jury will disregard that last statement.
They need to know.
I've sustained the objection, sir. Ask your next question, please.
I'm aware that it was a sustain. I'm aware.
Sustain.
I just wanted to know the
Sustain.
grounds. Can't keep hiding stuff from the jury.
Mr. Brooks, the
Statement.
court is not hiding anything from anyone, and the jury will disregard that last statement. It is not evidence in any way in this case.
Thank you. He's just getting angry because he's so wrong.
Would it be fair to say that any case has a plaintiff?
Objection.
Grounds.
Lack of foundation beyond the scope of the witness's knowledge.
Sustained.
Would it be? Can I rephrase the question?
Yeah. Just phrase it all you like.
Go ahead. I can't say whether it will be answered or not, but you can go
But
ahead and
I can't.
rephrase it.
I can't rephrase. Just so we're clear, whether it's answered or not, I can still rephrase the question.
I don't know what the question will be, sir, so I can't make a ruling that's advisory. So ask your next question, please.
Are you aware that
Objection.
in any case brought into a courtroom, there has to be a plaintiff?
Objection.
Grounds.
Same question.
Grounds.
It's the
Is
same
not
Also
question.
misstates the law, so sustained.
It is the same question, too. You asked the same question.
There's no plaintiff. How's their case?
Move to strike.
The jury will disregard the last comment and statement made by Mr. Brooks.
Grounds. There's a
Grounds.
defendant. There has to be a
Of the
plaintiff.
law.
With my liar lines.
It's not relevant. This jury will be the judge of the
That's
facts.
the case. Thank
The
you.
court is the judge
She
of
is
the law.
struggling to get him in line.
Please continue, sir, or under 90611, I will
Like the fourth
stop the
warning.
cross-examination.
If there's a defendant, there has to be a plaintiff.
Mr. Brooks, please stop. The jury will also disregard that statement. It's a mischaracterization of the law. It's a misstatement of the law.
Statement of the law.
Based on what law or fact, Your Honor?
And I'll
The
address
law,
that
the
with
law's written.
Mr. Brooks once again after.
Okay, see this big old book that she actually told you to look in to see what hearsay meant when you were pouting about that like a petulant child? Okay, the law, that's one little book that they have available to them that explains it to them. They go to school for years to understand this, and it takes a special mind to be able to do it properly. I could go somewhere.
After the jury has been excused. One final time, you may ask another question. Otherwise, I will, and it must not be along the same lines, or under 90611, I will ask the state whether there's any redirect.
Given his behavior, even if there was, I doubt they'll do it.
Do you know of anyone who filed a claim in this matter?
Yes,
Objection.
there was a whole quote-unquote parade of them, pun intended, that came through that said, you hit me. Those people were the complainants, okay? They become witnesses as you have offended the entire state, the whole of the people who have decided that, yes, indeed, murder is what we are going to charge you with because we think that's what you've done. Then they were represented by the district attorney's office, by the state's attorney's office, or whatever political attorneys exist that we vote into office or are hired to do so.
Grounds.
Irrelevant.
Grounds.
Way above that.
Also
That's
vague,
basically
so I'll sustain it.
my understanding.
So the grounds is vagueness.
And
So
relevant.
the grounds. Look at this
Is it
stupid.
vague or is it irrelevant?
Sustained, Mr.
Both.
Brooks. Next question.
Vague and irrelevant. He doesn't have anything else to ask. But what he never did was dive deep into these other eyewitness,
So
people
since your
around.
initial night of investigation, you've done no investigation since then in this matter.
Yes, that's what he said.
Correct.
And have you seen any news reports?
Objection.
Re-
Relevance.
Can I finish the question?
You can, there's been no identification, so under 90611, meaning of, I'm going to sustain the objection without hearing the rest of the question.
Okay, so news reports that could muddy up your recollection if you had identified Darrell. But this guy never saw anybody in the vehicle. His interaction with the vehicle was after Darrell ran away. So all he is investigating is the vehicle itself, which is obvious that's the vehicle that did it based on all of the evidence that was left behind. So Darrell's trying to ask the same question that, news reports changed his testimony, but his testimony had nothing to do with identifying him. The other officers who were practically run over by Darrell while they're trying to stop him from tromping through these people's parade, like a monster, they saw him.
I don't see how it would have any relevance. I'll let you make an offer of proof after we're outside the presence of the jury, and if necessary, you can recall this witness. Next question.
Obvious. It's
In
obvious.
that case, then, since that is stated on the record, no further questions. I would like to finish at some point.
And
Sir,
obvious.
finish your cross-exam as to
Just
that
said
limited.
no further questions.
Okay, but as to that limited topic only. So if there are other things outside
He is
that topic,
So disrespectful.
please finish your questioning.
I just said 2 times. I'm going to say it again. No further questions.
All right, thank you then, sir. State have any redirect?
No, nothing else. Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you. You may be excused. I'm going to excuse the jury momentarily to take up a legal issue with the parties, and hopefully we'll have you brought back out
See if the
shortly.
guy.
You
See
can
if
use
he
this
can
opportunity
show
for a comfort break.
an offer of proof of why news reports makes any difference. And I bet she stays standing up. I know this is going long. I'm so sorry. Just like to collect like one person's torture at a time.
Please be seated. You may make an offer of proof, sir, as it relates to why or what questions and what information you believe this officer would provide about news reports that he has seen.
So the offer of proof would just be to that one question.
What would the question be?
The question was, would have been, if I was allowed to finish it, had he seen any news reports directly connected to the incident?
But what's the relevance
the same
for
thing
him?
the same thing that many other witnesses have been asked, and it was never sustained then. It was never even objected to. So it was the same. It was essentially
focus
one of
on
the same
the-
questions.
Because the other witnesses identified you, which means it's kind of fair game to see if the identification was pure.
Specific objection that was posed, and my
And what was the grounds for
willingness
it?
to give you an opportunity to provide the court with an offer of proof. This was what relevance would this particular witness seeing news reports have to his testimony?
The same thing that any other witness that was asked the same question.
Which would be what? You have to be specific, sir.
I
I'm not
was
gonna
specific.
assume I understand what you are saying.
Have they saw any reports related to the incident? That's the same question that's been asked by numerous
Well, there would
witnesses.
be a follow-up to that. So how is it relevant to this witness's testimony?
It's relevant to anyone who gets on the stand's testimony.
What's the legal basis you believe it's relevant to his testimony, sir?
It obviously forms an opinion.
Again, you need to explain to me, sir.
As good as this guy's testimony is, as good as this officer's testimony is, he does not, other than the fact that he found Darrell's identification in the vehicle that had all this evidence of going through the parade, he doesn't actually physically, until it is searched, he doesn't actually physically tie Darrell to the vehicle. Therefore, even at that point, seeing Darrell on the news does not at all muddy his testimony. He found he was led to the vehicle. Somebody found the vehicle. He was led to the vehicle. So he identifies this as the vehicle with evidence of having gone through the parade, with all of this evidence on it, the holes in it, the broken windshield, the license plate, the license plate number, or whatever it is that Darrell likes to call it, the pieces of clothing that were left after he hit those people. All of those things were on this vehicle. He finds it. He identifies it, he clears it of any danger, and then he sees what he could see with his naked eye. He puts the plate number and logs that into the radio and gets that information. He sees that there's identification still in there. He looks at that and he puts that on a record, and then he gets other people involved who will, and then he goes back and gets the search warrant. This isn't rocket science. Okay, so where does that tie him into seeing a news report is going to muddy his testimony?
Legal basis why you believe I should allow that witness to be asked that question and then any follow-up based on his response.
What would have been the follow-up?
What would have been the
I'm
value?
asking
would've
you,
got
sir,
asked and it would've
you're
got
the one
answered.
who's the proponent of this particular testimony
He doesn't know what a
and this
follow-up
questioning
is.
and the evidence. So explain to me your legal basis for why you believe it's relevant to ask, or any other reason, any legal basis you believe it's that I should allow that question to be asked.
I don't understand how you want me to answer that. I've stated the reason why I asked the question.
No, you stated it's obvious, but it's not obvious to me, so I'm asking you to explain it.
I also stated that I just clearly stated,
Clearly.
that it goes towards biasness.
I'm
That
sorry,
would
it goes
be
to
relevant.
what? Wait, it goes to what?
Biased.
Biased with a T. And then she corrects him, which makes it even worse. And his misogynist attitude just, oh my God, look at him.
Bias?
Biased.
No, bias. B-I-A-S. There's no T at the end. Bias. I want to make sure I understand your
now it's a
reasoning
problem with
correctly,
how
sir.
to
So
correct something.
it's
How to
you're
pronounce
saying it
something.
goes to bias. How does it go to bias of this witness, sir?
How would it not go to if you see something in the news?
It's not a proper legal argument, sir.
Okay, well, I don't know how you want me to answer
How
that.
would what he saw subsequent to his investigation impact either what he did beforehand or his testimony here? You have to make an offer of proof as to that. Without that, I'm not going to allow it.
You didn't allow it anyway, so what do it matter at this point?
I'm giving you the opportunity. It's called an offer of proof.
Okay,
I said I
know
would
it.
recall the
I'm well
witness
aware-
if I
I'm well aware
determine.
what an offer of proof is.
No, you're
I'm well
not.
aware.
So make your offer
You
of
still don't know
proof.
what hearsay
I don't
is.
need to. It's clear.
Or how to make it.
It's very
clear
clear. I
to
don't see
Darrell.
anything funny either.
It's not funny, sir. It's a circular argument.
She's laughing at him because it is funny.
You're
I
telling me
wasn't
that
referring that
it's
to you.
clear.
I wasn't referring that to you. The person that it was referred to know who they are.
No, who they are.
Well, let's stay on task, please. So
I'm trying
you go-
to. but
you're
it's
claiming
hard.
it goes to bias,
May I
but
say this?
in what
May I
way?
say this for the record, Your Honor? It's hard to stay on task when it seems like the prosecution can ask essentially anything they want
Because
to
they know what
ask.
they're doing.
Mr. Brooks,
But then when I object-
I had
Wait,
an
wait.
objection before. Well, here's the thing.
The prosecution can ask anything they want to ask because they know what they're doing. And when I throw objections around like throwing poop on the wall, no, it just gets cast aside. He's going to say this in a second. It's going to be hilarious.
You want to go off target and you want
It's
to
not
bring
off
up
target.
things from the past. I can't explain to you why sometimes the state has an objection and other times they don't. But
That's
when
not what I asked.
when an objection has been made, it is my obligation to rule on it. And so there was an objection.
I'm aware of that, Your Honor. But I'm also aware of the fact, and it's clear that I object quite often, and every single time I object is
Makes no sense.
just thrown to the side. Every single time.
Well, I would
Every single
disagree
time it
with
makes
that
no
characterization,
sense.
sir.
And why
I
would
make
you
my
disagree with
rulings
that?
in this
Why would
case
you disagree
based.
with that?
I'm like an
Can you point out one
umpire.
time?
Oh my God.
I'm like an umpire in a baseball game, sir. I call and see the legal objections
She's
as
not
I
wrong.
see them. That is my role, and that is what I do.
You're trying to drag her into being your attorney. she's not wrong to say that if somebody objects to the other person, the way the other person is making their case, she is the one to decide what is fair. But he will take this just like any narcissist and continue to beat her over the head with it. Ugh.
And
Are you kidding me?
that's exactly what I do. I'm an umpire, sir.
Your Honor.
I am a referee in this trial.
If you're the
And let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish,
Okay.
Mr. Brooks.
I apologize. I'm letting
So-
you finish.
Yes. Come on, Miss Hutchinson.
Sometimes parties make objections, sometimes they don't. There can be a variety of reasons. You make a lot of objections in this case. From my perspective, okay, you make a number of objections. I rule on them, and you disagree with them. But that doesn't mean I'm casting things aside. I'm making a call based on the rules of evidence. So, for example, if there's a relevance objection, I'm going to analyze that, okay, based on the objection that's been made. Sometimes I might think there's another basis for something to either come in or not come in. But my rule book, okay, is the rules of evidence, which are the statutes, which once again, I'll point out, I gave you, sir, near the beginning of this trial, so that you would have a better understanding of what those rules are. If you choose not to read them, that's fine. But you cannot then claim that there is somehow foul play because you haven't read them and you don't understand what they are. Your ignorance of the law is not a defense
Thank you.
for any of this.
Thank you.
Okay? And you getting frustrated with me because you don't understand that, I mean, it's just what it is. But I'm calling these legal shots as I see them. And I've asked you repeatedly for an offer of proof. You want to ask this witness who had limited involvement regarding a part of an investigation related to that vehicle. I don't see the relevance, even to bias,
Darrell's legal theories.
for which I will allow him to answer that. You haven't given me a legal or factual reason to overrule the objection and to bring the witness back on the stand and to question him about his viewing of any news reports. So with that, we are going to take a very short break. The jury's been out for a little bit, but I recognize it's 3:25. It will be a good opportunity for a comfort break, and when we come back on, the state should be prepared to call the next witness.
Can I at least rebuttal to what you just said since you
I
asked
don't
me
need
not
a
to
rebuttal, sir. You may not agree with me, but I've made
It's not about
my
agreeing.
record.
You just told me not to interrupt you, and I didn't. So I at least deserve the chance to put on the record a rebuttal.
What
I put pants on this morning. Doesn't make me special.
would you like to put on the record as it relates to the specific issue for which I was giving you the opportunity to be heard? Not anything else, not subject matter jurisdiction,
God.
not
She's
Now,
had
you
it.
said
whether the
that.
state's
I
doing
didn't
other
even
things.
bring that up.
I'm only
Gaslight.
asking you to address the offer of proof.
No,
if
I
you
wanna-
have something, go ahead. But
I wanna-
only as it
No,
relates
I
to
want
that.
to address your position because you said you're like the umpire,
Okay.
right?
Well, I'm not getting. Okay, go
No.
ahead, sir. I'm not sure why you need to respond
Because-
to that.
Because it needs to be on the record. If you're the
What on the record?
umpire, that means you're the referee.
No.
That's what I'm doing here today, sir.
And when you're not reffing fair
Fear.
if
Because it didn't
the
go my
jury's
way.
not allowed to hear things that's important for them to know.
I respectfully disagree, sir. Again, just because you believe the law means you have a right to question all these witnesses about who the plaintiff is and about subject matter jurisdiction
I
doesn't
didn't question
make it
anybody
so.
about that.
Okay?
That was
it doesn't make
between
it
you
so.
and I. That didn't have nothing to do with a witness.
Doesn't make it.
I've
You
never
want to
once
question
questioned a
these
witness
witnesses,
about subject
sir,
matter
about
jurisdiction.
whether they are aware of complaints. And the funny thing is, sir, I sometimes let that question be answered for reasons that are completely different, I believe, than why you want them in. I am not going to explain that because I don't
You
have
can't
to
say
explain that.
what's my reason for asking it.
Well, I believe you've made it very clear, sir. So here's the bottom
I
line.
don't.
One of my roles
'cause I didn't
is
get
to
my
be the
way.
umpire.
Then you got to
All
be
right?
fair, Your Honor. You're a public
I
servant.
am fair.
No,
and I'm
you're
going to follow
not.
the
You're not
rules
being
of
service.
evidence.
Your
sir.
Honor,
That
this is
doesn't
why I
mean
say that.
I think this is why that person made such a negative comment, because I did say something about the difference between public service and being a public servant. Okay? Technically, I guess grammatically, you could push that through. But this is the problem with that. Like I said, it diminishes what all of those jobs are. As a paramedic, I wasn't just a servant, okay? I was there to service sick and ill people who, by the way, go to the hospital. You know, hospital is, what do they call it? An anagram? Or no, House of sick people in trauma and labor. That's what it stands for. It actually stands for that. House of sick people in trauma and labor. That's what I was there for. So the lady who used to get drunk and walk over to the bus stop in pee her pants and then make, and then insist that I pick her up because it was my job. No, that's not my job. You want to go to the hospital, I'm glad to take you. But I'm not obligated to pick you up. I know you can walk, okay? Just because you're intoxicated, I will assist you. I will make sure you don't fall down. But it is not my job to pick you up just because you don't feel like standing up, okay? Not really the same thing. And as far as paying their salary, there's thousands of these workers in public service. And my tax dollars that go to it probably pay this much of each one of their salaries. So yes, do we pay for them? Yes, but as a collective whole. Not that they are to serve me because I'm a petulant child.
Unfettered questioning
This is
of
why I say that.
witnesses that are not
And Darrell
relevant
doesn't pay
or
any
that call
taxes.
for hearsay or for a variety of other
He's
reasons
just
that are
included because
speculative.
he's part
There's a
of the
whole
public.
host of reasons in the rules of evidence, sir, that require me to make those determinations.
You're not being
I
fair.
respect
You're not
that
being
you
fair,
might
though.
not think it's always fair, but
It's
I
not.
disagree with the characterization. I think it has more to do with your lack of understanding of the rules of evidence and the rules of procedure, which you knowingly and freely and voluntarily and deliberately made a choice to represent yourself. And
And you
as
keep
I
saying
warned
that
you at
because
that
it sounds
time,
good
sir,
on the
you did
record,
that
but
at
it's
your
not.
peril.
It's not accurate. You accept
it's-
it when you gave me the paperwork, Your Honor. I
I'm
gave
not-
it back to.
This paperwork that keeps coming back to her like a bad penny, she has to take it. It says on there you're not supposed to alter it. He altered it. When he gives it back to her, she has to take it. I've heard this, I think it was Law by Mike or one of those other really smart attorney people who were doing it. She has to take it back even if he does alter it. After she took it back, she went through on the record verbally each one of the sections, and he acknowledged each one of the sections. He may not like it, but he agreed to it. Can't just have it the way you want it. This is not Burger King, like one of the other judges said.
I'm not going in. I didn't say that, sir, so we can go back and rehash all of those things.
But you know you accepted
All right.
the way that I gave you the
So
paperwork
what?
back. So once
and I
you
made
accept
findings
that,
on the record, which I will stand by, sir. So
and I'm not,
with that,
I'm not
we're going to
arguing,
the record.
I'm not
Take a
arguing your
break.
findings.
I
I'm
need a
not
comfort
arguing
break.
the findings,
I'm sure
Your
you
Honor.
need a
Findings of the
comfort.
record. What happened? Why did we freeze? Why did we freeze?
I would like to get through one more
You gotta-
witness today.
you gotta-
Thank
you gotta
We're
call
off
it
the
fair.
record, sir.
You got.
You gotta be fair. You gotta, her way, your way. Oh, thank heavens. Okay. Like, subscribe, consider making a donation. I'm going to check that link and make sure it's correct and spelled correctly. God forbid I make a spelling error on something that's just a hobby. All right. Thank you for joining. Please comment. See you later. This is Patty Jo.